Imagine being a slave in a foreign land, stripped of your freedom, yet standing firm as the most desirable woman in the kingdom sets her sights on you. This is not just a story of betrayal and lust, it's one of unwavering faith and the ultimate triumph of God's plan. Welcome to today's captivating tale of Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Stay tuned as we uncover intriguing twists and hidden truths in the story of Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Before we dive into the gripping details, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more powerful biblical stories that inspire and challenge your faith. Joseph's story begins with pain. The favorite son of Jacob, adorned with the famous coat of many colors, he was envied and hated by his brothers. Sold into slavery for 20 silver pieces, Joseph was carried off to Egypt by Ishmaelite merchants, a foreign land filled with strange gods and customs. But even in the pit of despair, God's hand was upon Joseph. He was purchased by Potiphar, the captain of Pharaoh's guard, a man of wealth and influence. Potiphar quickly noticed something unique about Joseph. The young man was intelligent, diligent, and trustworthy. It wasn't long before Joseph was promoted to oversee Potiphar's entire household. The scriptures and ancient texts speak of Joseph's extraordinary physical appearance. His skin was smooth as polished marble, his hair thick and dark, framing piercing eyes that radiated wisdom and purity. His stature was commanding, tall and well-built from the labor he endured, yet his demeanor was gentle and humble. Joseph's beauty was not just outward, it was the reflection of his righteous heart. His faith in God shone brightly, drawing the admiration of everyone around him. But this light would also attract danger in the form of Potiphar's wife. Potiphar's wife, known in some traditions as Zuleika, was a woman of immense beauty herself, accustomed to getting what she desired. Her husband's position brought her wealth, jewels, and influence, but she found herself increasingly fixated on the handsome young Hebrew who managed her household. At first, she admired Joseph from a distance, watching him as he worked. His discipline, his focus, and his quiet devotion to God intrigued her. Soon, admiration turned to lust, and her obsession began to consume her. She plotted day and night, searching for ways to ensnare him. One evening, while the household was quiet, she summoned Joseph to her chambers under the pretense of needing assistance. As he entered, she closed the door behind him, her silk robe shimmering in the candlelight. "Joseph," she began, her voice soft yet laden with intent, "you've served my husband faithfully. Surely, you deserve a reward. Come, sit with me. Let us talk." Joseph, sensing the danger, replied with humility, "Madam, my reward is serving God and fulfilling the trust your husband has placed in me." But she wasn't deterred. She leaned closer, her perfume intoxicating the air. "You're a man, Joseph. Don't deny yourself the pleasures you deserve." Yet Joseph, with unwavering resolve, stepped back. "How could I commit such a great evil and sin against God?" He turned and left, leaving her seething with frustration. Potiphar's wife refused to give up. She hosted grand feasts and invited Egypt's noble women, all to display Joseph's beauty. At one such gathering, as Joseph served the guests, their eyes were fixed on him. Some murmured in awe, others cut their fingers accidentally while slicing fruit, distracted by his presence. Potiphar's wife used this as an opportunity. "Do you see now why I am drawn to him?" she whispered to her friends. They nodded, understanding her desire but warning her of the potential consequences. Day after day, she pursued Joseph. She intercepted him in the hallways, brushed her hand against his as he worked, and whispered suggestive words when no one was around. She tried everything, changing her attire to revealing gowns, leaving gifts in his quarters, and even feigning illness to lure him to her side. Yet Joseph remained steadfast, refusing to compromise his integrity. Frustrated and desperate, she devised a final plan. One afternoon, when the household was empty, she called Joseph into her chambers. As he entered, she grabbed his cloak and held it tightly. "Today, you will be mine," she said, her voice trembling with both desire and fury. "No one is here to stop us. What harm could it do?" Joseph, his heart pounding, pulled away. "Madam, how can I betray your husband who trusts me? Above all, how could I sin against my God? Her grip tightened as he struggled. Realizing her efforts were in vain, Potiphar's wife's anger flared. In a fit of rage, she grabbed Joseph's cloak, pulling him toward her in a final desperate act of control. But Joseph, seeing the danger, immediately fled the room, leaving his garment in her hands. She fell back onto the bed, panting in frustration, her eyes wide with a mixture of lust and fury. At that moment, the door creaked open. The servants had arrived, summoned by her screams. Holding the cloak in her hand, she quickly fabricated a story, pointing to Joseph's retreating figure. "Look," she cried, "this Hebrew slave you brought into our house tried to assault me. He attempted to take advantage of me, and when I screamed, he ran, leaving behind this cloak." The servants, terrified and confused, could only nod in response, unsure of what to believe. The scandal had begun. When Potiphar returned home and heard his wife's accusation, his face darkened with anger. His wife's accusations rang in his ears, but deep down, he knew Joseph was an honorable man, a man of integrity, and this didn't sit right with him. Potiphar, though suspicious of her claim, had no choice but to imprison Joseph to save face. Still, Potiphar, bound by his position, had no choice but to act. He ordered that Joseph be thrown into the dungeon, a prison where even the highest-ranking officials feared to go. Joseph was bound and taken away, his body trembling but his spirit unwavering. He knew that this was another test, but he had no idea how long it would last. Though cast into the darkness of an Egyptian prison, Joseph's light continued to shine. His faithfulness to God would not go unrewarded. God's plan for him was far greater than the schemes of Potiphar's wife. Potiphar's wife, consumed by her infatuation with Joseph, had already gone to great lengths to seduce him. She had staged private encounters, manipulated public opinion, and ultimately orchestrated his imprisonment by falsely accusing him. But her obsession didn't end there. For her, the prison bars were not a barrier, they were merely another challenge to overcome in her relentless pursuit of Joseph. Joseph's imprisonment, though unjust, became another stage for Potiphar's wife's schemes. When Joseph was first thrown into the dark and damp Egyptian prison, Potiphar's wife quickly arranged to visit him. She came under the pretense of concern, pretending to feel regret for her actions. Dressed in her finest silks, with jewels that sparkled even in the dim light of the prison, she approached Joseph's cell. "Joseph," she said softly, her voice trembling with false sincerity, "look at what they've done to you. If only you had listened to me, you wouldn't be here. Don't you see? I still care for you." Joseph, seated on the rough stone floor, looked up at her, his expression unwavering. "Madam, I am here because I refuse to betray my master and sin against God. I will not trade my integrity for freedom." Her face darkened. "You're a fool," she hissed. "But I will give you another chance. All I want is your love. Give me that, and I will set you free." Joseph turned away, his voice steady. "My love belongs to God, not to sin." Potiphar's wife began visiting the prison regularly, bringing food and gifts, attempting to wear down Joseph's resolve. Each time, she changed her approach. Flattery, she praised his beauty, his strength, and his intellect, trying to make him feel desired and admired. Pity, she lamented his situation, crying crocodile tears and blaming her husband for being cruel and unfeeling. Bribery, she promised him a life of luxury and even freedom if he would only yield to her. The guards, under orders from Potiphar, allowed her access, unaware of her true intentions. Joseph endured these encounters with patience, never allowing her words to shake his faith. Word spread among the women of Egypt about Potiphar's wife's obsession. Some sympathized with her, while others mocked her inability to seduce a mere Hebrew slave. The gossip only fueled her determination. She began spreading false rumors, claiming that Joseph had secretly confessed his love for her but was too proud to act on it. This public manipulation created tension even within Potiphar's household. Potiphar himself began to suspect that his wife's accusations against Joseph were not entirely truthful, but for the sake of his reputation, he remained silent. One fateful day, Potiphar's wife orchestrated her most daring plan yet. She bribed the prison guards to allow her private access to Joseph's cell. Dressed in her most alluring attire, she entered, her face painted and her hair adorned with jewels. "Joseph," she whispered, her voice dripping with desperation, "this is your last chance. There is no one here to stop us. No one will ever know." Joseph stood, his face calm but resolute. "Madam, you have pursued me relentlessly, but my answer has not changed. I will not sin against God." She moved closer, her hands trembling as she reached for him. "You think your God cares about you? Look where he's put you. You're a slave, a prisoner. I'm offering you freedom, love, and a future." Joseph stepped back, his voice firm. "God is with me, even here. Your words cannot tempt me, nor can your actions force me to betray him." As Joseph sat in the darkness of his cell, a sense of peace settled over him. He felt abandoned by man, but never by God. His faith was unwavering, and the God he trusted had never failed him before. Joseph spent those years in prison, serving God and staying true to his integrity. He quickly gained the favor of the prison keeper, who entrusted him with the care of other prisoners. Joseph's reputation for honesty, kindness, and unwavering faith spread, and even in the darkest of circumstances, he remained a beacon of hope. Years later, Potiphar's dreams began to haunt him. Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, had troubling dreams that no one in his court could interpret. Word reached Joseph, who, with God's wisdom, interpreted Pharaoh's dreams, predicting 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. Impressed by Joseph's insight, Pharaoh promoted him to the position of governor over all of Egypt, second only to himself. Joseph, once a slave and a prisoner, was now a ruler, and his rise to power was a testament to God's plan and Joseph's faithfulness. Years later, during the famine, Joseph's brothers came to Egypt to buy grain. They didn't recognize him, but Joseph, knowing who they were, had the opportunity to take revenge. Instead, he chose forgiveness, revealing his identity to his brothers and inviting them and their families to live in Egypt. In that moment, Joseph declared, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Joseph's journey from a humble slave to a powerful ruler in Egypt is one of the most inspiring stories in the Bible. It shows how God's plan, even when it seems delayed or hidden, is always at work. Joseph's faith, integrity, and patience in the face of temptation and adversity ultimately led to his exaltation, and through his wisdom, the lives of many were saved. Joseph's story reminds us that no matter how dark the moment may seem, God's purpose will prevail, and faithfulness in the face of trials will lead to victory. Joseph's journey wasn't just about escaping temptation, but trusting in God's perfect timing and plan. Whether you're in a prison of your own struggles or standing firm against temptation, remember that God's plan for you is greater than any trial you face. Let Joseph's story inspire you to remain steadfast in faith. If you've enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more powerful biblical teachings and insights.